Feel free to use the handy tracker. I think my Eddie could have been poisoned from coal gas that's used for indoor lighting or from elevated levels of mercury as a result of being exposed to a cholera epidemic. It was this July when he was in Philadelphia. His doctor prescribed mercury chloride. Maybe that's what killed him. I suspect it was Griswold. Poe called Griswold a literary dilettante, a mediocre writer who was born into prosperity and succeeded more through social connections and exchanges of favors than talent. I heard rumors that identified Griswold as mentally unstable as well. I think Edgar succumbed to the flu, which might have turned into deadly pneumonia on his deathbed. His last night in Richmond, he was very sick, and I insisted he see a doctor because he had a weak pulse and a fever. I didn't think he should take the journey to Philadelphia to edit that book of poetry. I think he succumbed to rabies. He had a tortoiseshell cat named Katerina. I think it had rabies and bit or scratched him. I think Edgar was murdered by the three brothers of his wealthy fiancée, Elmira Shelton. Maybe he was wearing those awful clothes to disguise himself from them. Maybe they intercepted Poe in Baltimore, beat him, forced him to drink whiskey, which they knew would send Poe into a deathly sickness, and left him to die in the ditch. And probably Frank was the ringleader of it all. I believe Edgar died from the effects of debauchery. Fell in with a companion or two who seduced him to the bottle. I believe Boss Tweedle is responsible. He had his ruffians coop Poe. After Poe was stupefied with liquor, dragged out to vote at poll after poll, he was turned adrift to die. It's no wonder that a brain fever followed. Poe was a mad, drunken, womanizing opium addict who based his darkest tales on his personal experiences. I believe Poe ran into some friends from West Point and, unable to handle liquor, became madly drunk. In this drunken state, he was robbed and beaten by robbers and left insensible in the street all night. I heard that Mrs. Clem had been a thorn in Poe's side, always embroiling him in difficulties. She was obviously a dragon, though often no doubt a protective one. Maybe that's true. Maybe Mrs. Clem did not want to see her former son-in-law marry another woman, and did him in so he could join Virginia in death. Poe's friend, Dr. Joseph Snodgrass, arrived at the Baltimore hospital. He found Poe in what he assumed was a highly drunken state, wearing cheap, ill-fitting clothes very different from his usual mode of dress. After 4 days of slipping in and out of consciousness, Poe died in the morning of October 7th. Did his friend do him in order to have a famous martyr to use in all his temperance speeches? I mean, that's what he did as soon as Poe was dead.